Hey, what's up, fam? Thank y'all for tuning in once again. As always, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, hit the notification bell so every time I drop a video, you will be the first to know about it. Today, we want to talk about Debra Lee and the interview she did about her upcoming book, which details, all aspects of her life, I guess. But I have a few questions about this story because from what I'm reading and what I'm hearing, yeah, she became the CEO of BET, but it seems like that she did something that I want to say a lot of women and maybe guys too. It seems like she did some things, what you say, something strange for a little piece of change to make it to the top. But we're going to get into this article from Essence magazine, and then we're just going to discuss it, and you just let me know what you think. Okay, like I said, this is from essence.com. It says Debra Lee on sharing her truth in new memoir, quote, "I want other people to have my advice and my warning signs." So it says Debra Lee is a trailblazer, a glass ceiling obliterator, and a cultural creator. But again, I'm going to kind of question those adjectives that they gave her, because from what we're about to read, it's not like she just got to the top, just by, her works alone. Let's just say that, okay? So she says, "My blackness has always been a part of me," asserts Lee as she smiles from across the screen during a virtual interview. She said Lee was born the same year the Supreme Court ruled that separate is not equal in Brown versus Board of Education. The exec was a military brat who grew up in the segregated South, and I think that's going to play a part in what's about, what we're about to discuss too. As such, her generation felt a particular obligation to challenge the status quo. She says, "We felt like we had a lot of burden on our shoulders to help make the community better, and I never knew I was going to find a place like BET, but when I did, it was a perfect fit." A Harvard Law School graduate, Debra Lee left a big-time law firm to start working at BET, essentially a startup, as general counsel. She began in 1986, so let's stop right there. She was born in 1954, so let's keep that in mind. So she was born in 54, this is 86, so she was 31, 32, give or take a year. She was 32 years old when she started working at BET, so she was not a child. She was not young, a spring chicken, if you may. She was a grown woman. At 32 years old, I would think you'd be considered a grown woman, right? He said she began in 1986. Making an annual salary of $50,000, taking a substantial $18,000 pay cut. And I'm going to assume that she probably quit her job. Maybe it had something to do with racism, bigotry, prejudice. Because again, you're talking like in the 80s, and she says she grew up in the South. So I'm quite sure that, racism, sexism, all that probably played a part. And probably her work environment and the salary that she made. So I'm quite sure that when BET, and it says here, BET founder Robert L. Johnson assured Lee that she would make that back. The differential between the two salaries over the years, he was correct. So you got a brother coming up with a startup, BET, Black Entertainment, a channel for the culture supposedly. So to help build the culture, to make it better. Put the community in a better light. You know what I'm saying? I can understand her jumping at the chance of that. They said during her tenure at BET, Lee attained countless major successes. Notably, she was the driving force behind BET going public in 1991. So by this time, she's been working there, 5 years? Okay. BET Holdings was the first black company traded on the New York Stock Exchange. And she went on to become the company's COO and CEO. In 2018, after a 32-year run at the network, 13 of those serving as the CEO, the attorney and businesswoman decided to cede the throne to the black media juggernaut. it was time to step down. Today, Lee is sharing the story behind her journey with the world. So here's my question first question. As you know, she sold the company to, another white media mogul company, all right? Or, a group of white investors or whatever. Didn't sell it off to other black people. If she's such a pioneer for women, black women, strong black, career-driven, independent women, why did she not hand over the reins of the company to another black woman? Or even a black man or what have you? Why would she, not do that? Why would she sell it to a white media company? Because again, it's black entertainment television. Could she not find any other black women who were striving? I'm sure there's plenty that was working at BET at the time. Could she not find another person that was like of her ilk, following her footsteps? Because remember, she became CEO because Robert Johnson, the guy who you're going to see, she claimed, pretty much manipulated her into a sexual relationship. He handed it down to her. So why in the heck she couldn't hand it down to somebody else? You know what I'm saying? That was like her. That lets you know what it tells me. I don't know too much behind the scenes, but what this tells me is at times black people ain't trying to help black people come up. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. If you want to keep businesses black, but we always talk about ownership. Owning businesses, something to hand down, pass down to generations, and pass it over to other black people, so we can stay black, so we can keep the money in the community and all that kind of stuff. And then you go off and sell it to somebody else. I'm just saying, if that's your story, because remember, you grew up in the segregated South, and so you want to do something that's better for the community. Yeah. She said, I wanted to tell my story because there are so few black female CEOs out there, she explains. I want other people to have my advice and my warning signs. Again, you just said there are so few black female CEOs, and yet you made sure that there wasn't another one behind you to build on your legacy. She said, it says, I Am Debra Lee is as much a self-help book as it is a personal account of the executive's most intimate moments. It say in the 256-page text, Lee chronicles her marriages. She's been married more than once. Okay. Divorces, divorced more than once because it's got S on there, and boardroom battles, among other moments dating back to her childhood. She brings an impressive level of vulnerability, laying all on the paper. She said, choice is a privilege, and everybody has choices, right? From the really big things like what women are allowed to do with their bodies to the seemingly small moments like how we style our hair, the ability to decide whether to turn right or left, and the freedom too many of us take for granted. The author reflected in her book, channeling her 21-year-old self to address the issue of abortion. As a recent graduate of Brown University, Lee got pregnant. She called to tell her love interest that she was with child, and he hung up. Lee subsequently made the decision to terminate her pregnancy. This was in 1976, 3 years after Roe versus Wade. Now peep this. Quote, I have never spoken about it before, Lee said. I had the freedom to say, do I want to be a mother or do I want to terminate the pregnancy? And I decided I wanted to go to Harvard Law School, and it was not the time for me to have a child. So to say this correctly, it would be, do I want to be a mother or do I want to continue in my career? Now, again, from what the paragraph says above, she wasn't married. This was one reason why now I know we're trying to promote this, marry before you carry, if you want, because it's hard out there being a single parent. There's a lot of women out there, single mothers, making the choices to lay down, sleep with guys, regardless if you love the man or not. I mean, y'all can have all love in the world, but you know, condoms and pills and any kind of contraceptive, man, that's very affordable compared to raising kids, and you mess around and end up maybe raising a child by yourself and you're not ready. So again, I feel it's like she chose her career over motherhood, but she chose over marriage, which is like kind of going backwards. You feel what I'm saying? Well, she said it wasn't time for her to have a child. Okay, Lee got pregnant only months before the law school began, and she didn't have much time to make a choice. It was such a quick decision, and after it happened, and I had, terminated pregnancy, I had to get back into getting ready for law school. I didn't have time to regret it. I didn't have time to mourn. I just had to say, I'm going on with my life. I made a decision, and it's behind me. And that was tough. And it was really tough. And I'm sure it was a tough decision. That's why, like I say, we're trying to promote other people. We're trying to promote the marry before you carry, because, man, hey, I'm gonna give it to her. You know, having a child is a tough decision. There's never a perfect time. I always say there's never a perfect time to do anything. Just like having kids. People say, oh, I'm gonna wait till I have this, this, my career goes this way, and once I'm this age, I'm gonna date for this long, I'm gonna travel the world, then I'm gonna have kids. Well, the problem is, a lot of times when women wait too long, by the time they get ready to have kids, most of the suitors have already been taken, which means that most likely you may have to find someone that's older than you who's ready to settle down, or find somebody who's younger than you who's really not really ready to settle down, but you think he is. You think you can change him to make him be able to settle down, and in the end, he's not ready because, as y'all say, he's not on your level financially and, career-wise. So, so you can tell he was immature, wasn't ready, but you thought you were going to mold his brother. And that's not how the world works. It said, upon reading the book, one would notice that Lee has faced a tremendous bit of adversity personally and professionally on her path to the throne of BET. What is particularly impressive is Lee's ability to find her voice and overcome these difficult moments. And I want you to listen to this little excerpt from the Good Morning America interview that she had not too long, on March 7th, I guess. And we're just gonna kind of dissect this a little bit. So let's go with it.
Well, I wanted to tell that story because the power dynamics are so important in a relationship, and especially if you're having a relationship with someone you work for.
Now, just a quick note, Brother Johnson was 8 years older than she was, okay?
And we all know the potential pitfalls. I worked for Bob Johnson for 10 years before we had a personal romantic relationship.
So she said she worked for him for 10 years, which means, now remember, she started working at BET, what did I say, at age 32? So according to her, they didn't have a personal, romantic relationship until she was about 42, in her 40s. So again, she was not a child. She was a grown woman. Actually, 42, hell, in this day and age, she's old enough to be a grandmother. But she chose to get into this relationship with the guy, which I'm quite sure that she had some kind of feelings for this man. Well, let me just say, they probably had feelings for each other for a long time. Probably from the moment they met, which could be why one of the reasons that she left her other company in the first place. Because again, like I said, I'm thinking she might have left the other company because of, prejudice or, racial reasons. And she jumps into the arm of a black man. Now, mind you, she was married at the time. Let's continue.
And he was a mentor, and he pushed me, and, he's responsible for a lot of my success.
Now, understand, women love to be involved with men with power. With status, let's say that, because they're wired to accept security, to want to be, want security from a man, right? So when you meet a man who has power, prestige, doing something, he's moving forward, making moves. Think about it. She just, whatever. When she first started this job, not too many years before that, she was pretty much cast to the side by, at the time, probably no good bum. You know what I'm saying? And so while she was at her most vulnerable stage, of being pregnant and getting ready to go to law school, just graduated college. That's another thing. Hopefully she was trying to date a guy that was in college that she met at school, but I haven't read the book, so I'm only speculating. But she moves on from that guy who just, threw to the side and ran to a brother who was doing something that's going to make big power moves. And I'm quite sure that was the attraction and helped her make her decision to go to join BET.
We did have a relationship while we were both married. We ended up both divorced. And
so, did the relationship cause you two to be divorced? So you had a husband, you had children, and you had an affair with a married man, and you ended up. Did you leave him, or did he divorce you? I kind of want to read this book, tell you the truth.
And then people knew about the relationship. The company knew, the public, we started going places together. The downfall of a relationship like that is if you want to get out of it. And that's the part where it came, and I wanted to break up. I saw it wasn't a long-term relationship, and my job and my career was held over my head.
So at the time you was ready to get out the relationship, neither one of y'all was married at the time. So, and you felt, or you knew that it was not going to be a long-term relationship. How is that possible? Now I can understand if y'all was both still married and you realize, or one of y'all was married and you realize that, this is not going to be something long-term because of what's going on outside of our relationship. So I want to go ahead and end it. But by this time, think about it. Everybody knew that y'all was having an affair. So really, it's like, shoot, he probably saying, man, I lost my family, you know what I'm saying, over this and this, that, and the third, because we both consented to this. Should you leave me, you can't have nothing. You understand what I'm saying? So, like I said, accountability is a key word, accountability.
And it was like, well, if you want to break up with me, then you can leave tomorrow. And that was, 20 years into my career at BET, so I would have lost everything. I would have lost my career, my job, my ability maybe to get another job, because if I couldn't get a reference from the person I worked for 20 years, how do I explain that? And by that time, I was a single mother with 2 children. So it was a tough time. And
Single mother with 2 children. Here's the thing. Miss Lee has shown that she is willing to put her career before everything else, which is what I see, like I say, a lot of black women has followed that path. Willing to take all the bumps and bruises, but not taking accountability for the choices that she made, because she ended up fulfilling her dreams. You terminated a pregnancy so you can go to law school. You stayed at a career that you said, where you said that the CEO, owner of the company, coerced you into a relationship. You thought it was platonic and, and consensual, but then after the Me Too, we'll get into that part in a minute. He handed you the reins to the company when he left, made you CEO. If you stay, I'm gonna give you everything. If you leave, you take nothing. Kind of sound like Suge Knight and Dr. Dre in Death Row back in the day. But anyway, so she chose her career over her moral standards, over everything else. And that's a problem. Like I said, we have failed no, she's older than me, but I can see like our community have failed our women because we have programmed them to say, you go to college, get your degree first, don't worry about no man. Now, she had a man during college, because a lot of times we see stories about like couples, like white couples, you see them going to college, dating, getting married right after college, getting engaged during college, you know what I'm saying, getting married after college, whatever, starting a family, starting their careers. And we say, you know, they're doing that, creating generational wealth, getting wealth passed down, and all we can do is, you know, all we promote is, you know, rap music and baby mamas, baby daddies, twerking. You know, I don't cook, I don't clean, but I still got a ring, whatever. All this kind of stuff, just all these negative connotations and stereotypes that we put upon ourselves and our people. For what? To show that we hard, that we street, and we got nothing to show for it. Like I say, I guess she tried to go that route and it didn't work out for her. But again, I guess it's boiled down to like the person you chose. But again, if one thing you could have done, you could choose, like I said, a deadbeat dude and choose to sleep with him or whatever. But make that boy strap up, or you know, you take contraceptives or whatever the case may be. But you know what I'm saying? The biggest thing is to prevent that pregnancy, because whether you had a child or not, man, that's a lot.
I didn't have anyone to talk to about it because I didn't have female role models. There weren't a lot of women ahead of me, you know.
But again, there weren't a lot of women ahead of you, but you were CEO. So there was women behind you. So again, when you sold BET, why were there not any women there that you felt that you could hand over the reins to? Cynthia G and all your followers. Yeah, I'm just gonna throw that name out there. I know people are gonna say, "Oh man, here you go talking about Cynthia G." Yeah, because you know you love the Down Brothers. You know, big up women. Talk about every black male should be terminated before birth. You know, like you done read some scriptures and you trying to, you know what I'm saying, terminate the Messiah back in the biblical days or whatever the case, because he's gonna become king and take your, you're afraid gonna become king and take your throne, whatever the case may be. Where is your take on this story here about the choices Sister Lee made?
I was embarrassed to talk to my family about it. So it was a dark time, and what saved me was therapy. And eventually Bob left the company and I became CEO.
There you go. Bob left the company and you became CEO. So you put up with a whole lot to fulfill your dreams. So the question is, women, what are you willing to sacrifice for your dreams? Now, she put out this memoir, so I'm quite sure there's a lot of stuff she has to get off her chest. But I really would like to know how she's doing emotionally and mentally, because I'm quite sure that due to the choices that she made, that she has put herself through a lot and she regrets a lot of stuff. I'm quite sure, like the pregnancy termination, sticking out this relationship to become CEO, and again, selling the company not handing the company down to other black women. It says that, she said, so back to the article. She said, I never thought it would turn into something other than a professional relationship, she tells Essence. And then when it did, I had to deal with it. And then when it wasn't working anymore, I had to deal with that too. The retired executive is a wise woman and a straight shooter. Still, she emanates a warmth that skews away from the architectural business person persona. In our virtual meeting room, Lee speaks frankly of her life and experiences, the challenges, the successes, the highs and the lows as she described it. Lee, who's very much a rock in her circles, is human. Sometimes she needs support. And it's not to say I don't fall apart at times and go through dark moments. I started therapy years ago because I was at one point in my life where I really needed it, which I feel a lot of people, black people, men and women need therapy, man. A lot of us go through a lot of stuff that we hold inside, that we harbor for a long time, and it causes us to make, bad decisions or, immoral decisions to try to get to a level of success, whether it's personally or professionally, that we shouldn't have to deal with, that we shouldn't have to go through, put ourselves through. But that goes on in our community. I don't know what goes on in other people's communities, so I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about me from my perspective and my skin tone. And it's important to have people you can talk to, people that are strong for you, but when you're the one in your family that's successful and that others depend on, whether it's your children or your siblings or your parents, don't have time to fall apart a lot. Exactly. Like what's old Pimp C lyric, got women and children that depend on me. That's the same thing I thought about when I was working at a warehouse and barely making enough money. I said, man, look, I got 2 kids that they're getting older, 2 girls that are getting older, and they're gonna need things. I gotta do more in my life, for a career, to provide for them, so I can help provide for them, so they can have a better life, create a better life for themselves. My life wasn't really that hard, but it was due to choices. I mean, I had some bumps and bruises as an adult, but that's because of choices I made. Because I grew up getting, two-parent home. So some of the things I did wasn't really things that I needed to do, but I made the choices. And like a man, stuck to them, what I'm saying, and handled it. Life is not easy, Lee contends, it's just not easy. And then he talks about her, losing her eldest son in 2020 when he passed away. And so on and so on. But again, like I said, I know they're trying to paint her as this super empowering woman, and that's probably because a lot of women have done the same things that she has. So the thing about that is, a lot of times they want to tell their story. I said before in videos, being probably condescending, but women like to talk too much. They like to tell all their business, their whole life story. They like to tell about all their boyfriends and all their little old sexual encounters with every dude they've been with. And they like to do that to their man. Sometimes, somehow, or to anybody that'll listen. I think they just want to get it off their chest because they are not as proud of it as they claim they are, but they just want validation. They want to make sure that you understand what they've been through and what they did, or what may have happened to them, and that you still want to be there and not leave, or whatever the case may be. But like I said, I think a lot of women have been through and go through the same thing that Sister Lee has, and it's sad, it's unfortunate, but what it has to be is an accountability, a self-accountability, to where you say, hey, I made these choices. They were not the greatest choices. I don't think that, whether I do or I don't believe that I should have made these choices to become who I am. I mean, history is already done, so, it is what it is, but hey, you don't have to bump your head like I did. And I hope that's what she's saying in this book. But one thing it kind of made me wonder is, I know y'all have heard the stories of, the casting couch in Hollywood, right? Where a lot of these actresses, especially like the actresses that really don't make it, or even the ones that don't make it will sit there and say, hey, I didn't do, the casting couch was, that's when like the executives try to do things, try to take advantage of young wannabe actresses and maybe some actors too, and say, hey, if you want this part, you got to do some things for me, this and the third, and they'll do whatever, and become a lot of the time it's sexual in nature. And a lot of times you hear the stories that be from the ones that really didn't make it, but they'll say, like, I didn't do it, and this is why I didn't get this part, blah, blah, blah. But the thing about it is, the ones that do make it big, you rarely hear about them going on the casting couch. So are you saying that the majority of these actresses have not been coerced, or have not been have not done things, will it say something strange for a piece of change or for a roll? I'm just gonna call BS on it and say I believe the most of them have. Because a lot of them don't talk about it. The only one talk about are the ones that after a while people say, oh, they crazy because they on drugs, strung out, this and the third, but they didn't get that way just for the hell of it. Things happen to people. People make choices, and a lot of times people become successful and get positions for the choices they make. And a lot of times, especially in this society, they're immoral choices. Let's just be honest. So my thing is, like I say, what Sister Lee did, I believe, is not uncommon in this country or in successful businesses. It's just not. I don't think it is. It's just not talked about enough. And I do think it needs to be put out there so we can call these dudes out that do this to these females. So I mean, so that way you can, you put everything out in the open, then you can fix problems. When you don't talk about problems, you don't talk about what's going on, then that's when nothing changes. And then somebody come out and put a book out like this. And like I say, people like, well, let's say Cynthia G and other women out there in power, they're not going to really go, in detail about this and really have a deep discussion about this to try to really make changes. See what kind of change they can make for the future to make it easier for women. Because again, this woman had a whole company, a whole black-owned company that she could have handed down, groomed other black women, and handed it off to them so that they can continue and help build other black women up so they don't have to go through what she claims that she went through with Brother Johnson. But man, that's all I got, okay? Because I can go on forever. My question, I just want, tell me what you think. Tell me what you feel about this story. Leave your comments below and then share it with the world, man. And with that being said, I leave you in peace. I'll see you on the other side.